Hello, welcome back to the second part of creating the Wormhole shader. In this lecture we are just going to experiment a little with procedural textures to show you the basic principles behind it. In the next video we will create the final shader. So if you already know shading with nodes in Blender cycles well enough, you can just skip this part. The first thing we can do is duplicate the mapping node and connect it as well to our texture coordinate node, after which we can add a noise texture node and connect it to the mapping node as well. We can also connect the noise texture node to our emission shader strength, so that the noise will decide where the strength of the emission is the strongest. You can already see the bright part being affected by our noise texture in the viewport render. We can also try connecting the two color sockets. We can make some space between the noise and emission node and add a color ramp node in between. To demonstrate, we can set the interpolation to constant and move the right slider more to the middle. You will see the transition from black to white of the noise very clearly with the constant setting. However, we are not going to use the constant setting in our final shader. But we are not going to use the constant setting. Instead, we will use ease to get some fading between the colors. By bringing two handles of different colors together, you can make the fading sharper as shown. Now, in order to create the light streaks effect, we need to stretch our procedural noise texture on one axis. This we can do in the mapping node with the scale value. So by increasing the scale X value, you effectively stretch the noise since it gets scaled only in one direction. By increasing the noise texture scale, we can make the streaks smaller. So now we have very long streaks. To add some distortion to our noise, we can increase the noise distortion value. Just experiment with the noise setting to see the effect. We can also bring the two color ramp handles closer together for a sharper fading effect. Let's also reduce the noise scale and the mapping scale X axis to create smaller streaks, since too big of a streak is not what we want for our wormhole effect. Now let's switch to camera view in our 3D viewport to check out how it looks. We can also just hide the icosphere since this object will not be rendered. When we slide the timeline slider, we can see our camera moving through the wormhole with our noise effect, so you can see how this is developing towards our final shader. But you might notice that something is missing with our noise texture during the animation. That is that the noise itself is not moving, only the wormhole. This we can change by animating the increasing location Y value. In your case it might be the location X or even Y axis depending on the orientation of your wormhole. So now, after giving you a basic understanding on how we are going to build our final wormhole shader, we can experiment a little bit by trying out different procedural textures and giving our color ramp some different colors. Perhaps before you play around, save first your blend file. In Blender, one can learn already a lot by just trying out different things and see the result. It's called learning by doing, a technique which was invented by nobody, since it is a fundamental principle kind of thing. So in the next lecture, we are going to complete our final shader. The things we have added in this lecture you can actually delete, it was just for demonstration. I hope you learned something from this lecture and see you in the next one.